blue, right? Hey, team, can you put blue on the overhead? Dude, you have to stand up. You got to stand up and look toward the camera. Come on, this is too awesome, man. Come on. And we're gonna give you applause. No, listen. Seriously. That was hang on, stand up again. In the spirit of good sport, turn toward the camera. In the spirit of good sportsmanship, that was an awesome win for Illinois. All right. Well, I think it was an awesome win. So, not that I want Penn State to lose. I'm just saying, you gotta It's the nature. This is life. You know what I mean? It kind of goes with the theme of the class today, which I'm calling reaching around the world. And that, hey, by the way, I know that one of the things that actually goes with today's class as well is, unless you're a legacy child, meaning that, like your parents went here, your grandparents went here, your aunts and uncles, your siblings, that sort of thing, or your parents teach at Penn State or work at Penn State or whatever, it's really pretty random that anybody is here. And it's fine that we're all here, right? But it's just pretty random that the vast majority of us are sitting in this room. And it's also pretty random that very quickly we can become socialized to wrap our hearts and spirits around a place and around all of the accoutrements to go to that place and all the symbols of that place, including, athletics and that sort of thing. But, in truth, there's probably nobody in this room for whom whether the football team wins or loses doesn't matter to your life. It certainly doesn't matter in the long run to your life. But in fact, what happens is we get socialized to a place, and then it does matter. We think it matters to us, and at some level it does, right? I mean, but if you think about it, it's random that we're here, and that if you're, for whatever reason you got here, you could very easily have gone to University of Illinois, or next weekend, it could be Ohio State, or whatever it is. It's all random. And then you'd be cheering for those teams. And so, everything that matters about Penn State would matter somewhere else. And that's neither good nor bad. That's just part of the human experience, in a way that we attach ourselves to symbols. And then those symbols have a certain kind of meaning to us. But I will say, as a sociologist, it's all pretty random. And that's what makes it difficult for those of us who are sociologists to get to invest ourselves or get wrapped up in certain symbols or certain things, whether it's, religion or schools or mascots or companies or whatever the case is. It's really hard to get emotionally wrapped up in it because we understand how random it is, that, like for me, that I would be here as opposed to somewhere else. Not that it doesn't matter, like at some level, right? Like many athletes take this class, and in the springtime, there's always 15 or 20 guys from the football team who take Social 19. And so I know lots of people through the years. So I get to know people, and then I feel, okay, it'd be nice for them to be happy, but it's nice for Illinois to be happy. So good for them. I don't know them, but whatever. It's nice for them to be happy. Anyway, that's just sociology. So, okay, let's do it. So while they're getting ready for Top Hat, let me just say the following. We're gonna talk about multiculturalism today, and then at the but I want to talk about it in a kind of a sociological analysis of multiculturalism and kind of like what it is and how it is. And by the way, so we're gonna have I think what for me will be a really interesting conversation. Hey, so do that. All right. Okay, we good? All right, man. So, you three folks, Austin, Pete, and Sarah. Can you just introduce yourselves, say where you're from, and just a quick thing about you that you wrote in your volunteer form, which is how you ended up here.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Austin. I'm a senior from Hawaii, and
From Hawaii.
Yeah, from Hawaii.
Dude.
And in my bio, I wrote about how a pair of Korean immigrants came to Hawaii looking for a better education for their family, and that pair had me, and those are my parents, and that's what I wanted to talk about today.
All right, awesome, man. Pete.
Hello, I'm Peter Schulman. I'm from D.C., and I was raised in England.
Raised in just England or elsewhere?
I was first Italy, and then I lived in England for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
And then I went back, and I lived in D.C. for the past 2.
Did you don't have any kind of British, I don't hear anything in your...
Yeah,
well, I do
everyone's
actually a little bit.
disappointed.
What's that?
Everyone's disappointed.
Yeah. Can you do it, though?
No, I can't even do a fake one.
Yeah?
No.
Dude. All right, man. Sarah, how about you?
My name is Sarah. I'm a junior. I'm from Philly originally, and in my bio, I mentioned that as like a part of my experience in Philly, I went to a predominantly black school all throughout my education. Also that I've traveled a few places around the world.
Uh-huh. So thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks. So what I want to do is I want to deconstruct what we talk about as multiculturalism, okay? And I want you, so can you go, yeah. So there are 3 things that happen when I think about multiculturalism, right? I'm going to turn my backs to you right now. So there are 3 things that I think about when I think about multiculturalism. I think about like my own experience. And when I think about multiculturalism, I want to talk about it in the broadest possible ways. And it's the thing with this term is it has become like it's like a buzzword, it's this word that people just sort of grab onto and they use and they throw it around, like it has all sorts of meaning, but nobody ever really stops to say, well, what does it really mean, right? And so there are 3 levels of this. One is to understand, our level of understanding of the world, our level of the degree to which we feel comfortable with other peoples, things that are different from us, whatever our experience is, and then the degree to which we can engage with. So tell us about how you would say, as best as you can, just in general terms, like how are you different than many of the people around you given your experiences? And Pete, let's just start with you, right? How are you different than people around you given what you've...
I think I was just treated so differently growing up that it sort of made me a little weird almost. But like I was always known as the American kid growing up, like at British schools. So I think it sort of almost made me like self-centered a little, not gonna lie. Like I feel like I'm the main character because or like not anymore, but like I was a little egotistical because I was used to always being like the different one.
Well, so what do you know about, so you sit right here now, right?
Yeah.
What do you know about the world that people who haven't had an experience that's similar to yours that they don't know? That you imagine they don't know?
I just know a lot more about like the culture in Europe that people don't know about in the U.S. Like I remember I saw on like the news the other day that like a mom bought like her 17-year-old daughter like alcohol and condoms, and like I
Wait,
saw on the
alcohol
news
and
that like
yeah, go
a
ahead.
mom bought a like 17-year-old alcohol and condoms for a party. It was a big deal, but like the UK in me, like the European in me, was like, no, that's normal. Like people like in the Europe, like it's sort of like you start drinking, you know, earlier, and like you know, it was sort of weird seeing that and being like, wow, that's so taboo here, but back in UK, that's like normal sort of.
So like there, you're taught how to drink by the adults around you.
Yeah, like you start drinking when you're 16 and stuff.
Yeah, which
Like,
is
you
how
know.
it should be, right? Like how many of you are learning to drink right now? And the people that are teaching you are a bunch of idiots who don't know a damn thing about drinking. You know what I mean? But you need to learn to drink from adults who have a lot of experience with it. Not that they're alcoholics, but people who are thoughtful about it, you know? So well, let me go. So Sarah, let me ask you a similar question. Like, so you went to a predominantly black school. Were there other students who were not black? I mean, beyond white and black students, other cultures represented?
Yeah, we had a few international students. I had a friend from Taiwan, other people from some Asian countries. There was one or two Hispanic / Latino people.
So let me ask you the same question. Like, what do you know about the world, or what do you think you know about the world? So it's one or the other. We can go there, right? Because, you know, you're young, right? So the things you know about the world, in 10 years, you'll realize, oh, I thought I knew, I didn't. But also, that's why I'm going to say it that way. What do you think, what do you see that a lot of people around you don't see?
I would say, as having grown up around a lot of people who are black and with a lot of friends, I'm a little bit more acquainted with like what the culture is like. Obviously, I don't have that culture, but I understand it probably to a better degree.
Well, hang on. Let me just stop you there, right? That's like a thing that white people are told we should say. Everyone is told we should say, but that's a white thing. Like, but if you grew up with the culture, you do have that kind of culture, right? It's like you're not walking in those shoes per se, but you're connected to that culture.
Yeah, I would say to some degree, but also my family, like my parents are both from the suburbs.
Yeah, I got you.
Like I was raised in that family,
Yep,
so
I got you.
still kind of have like a little bit of white culture, I guess.
No, right. Okay, so no, hang on. So what I'm actually doing is, I'm like, I don't want you to get small. I want to open up this conversation about what is multiculturalism, right? And so, like, if you're up against the culture, right? And I'm touching you because it's like that. You know, you're up against the culture every day. Then that culture, there are parts of that culture. You may not do your hair a certain way, but when you know all about doing hair, as you would if you were a black woman, right? With like, I don't know, like 4C hair, let's say, right? Then you would, but you can know as much. You maybe don't do your own hair, but you could know just as much, like, because, you know, your friends, you maybe worked on the hair of your friends or something. But anyway, okay, but go ahead. What else? So what else? What else do you see that other people don't see?
Yeah, I would say I've seen like some of the experiences of my friends who are black, like negative ones that they've had, just with other races, and I've like heard how it's made them feel and how it's impacted them. So I think I empathize a lot for them because of that.
Okay, so for you, when if someone's telling a story, like if I tell some story or somebody else tells some story about something that happens, it takes you to a place of your friend in a story that you've experienced up close, and you're like, oh, okay, it's not like some distant thing like it happened on the other side of the world. Kind of, it's so similar to Pete, right? That story is like, nah, I get that. Those are my friends over there. That's like my friend's parents. Like, I know that woman who did that. You know what I mean? I don't know her, but like, I get that. Okay, so you're up against, you see things. It's easier for you to see and understand certain things. Anything else that just comes to mind?
Since I have traveled to Europe and I have some friends there, so I would agree with Pete about the culture there a little bit.
Yeah, you travel a lot, right?
Sort of, yeah. Like not for long periods of time, but usually a week or two at a time. And so I think I'm somewhat familiar with like the UK education system, stuff like that.
And that means what for you? Like, how does that open your mind? Like, what happens in your mind?
It's kind of cool because I can like understand the nuances of certain things, like when I read about them or when I hear about them, or if I hear someone talking about their experience, I'm like, oh yeah, my friend from over there like experienced the same thing or something like that.
And so when you say nuance, go into nuance really fast. Can you put a little more onto that?
I guess like the implications of certain things that I hear. So just like, I don't know, in terms of, say, the education system, if someone says like they failed their A levels, I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's kind of like their whole college blown. And I understand the nuance of that and the emotions they're probably feeling, and like what the consequences of that are in a way that someone else might not.
Got you. Okay. Very cool. All right. Austin, how about you, man? What do you think, what do you see in the world that, because of your experiences, right? By the way, how cool is it to grow up in Hawaii? Is it like as cool as I imagine it to be?
To me, it's not really of a flex, but like to other people, they're really interested. And I think of that because, it's like the States. Like if you tell someone, oh, I grew up in like Texas, and they're like, oh, it's pretty cool. But then if I tell them like I'm from Hawaii, they're like surprised, like I'm like from a different country or something.
Yeah. So what do you see? What do you see about life because of your experiences?
Well, in Hawaii, it's like there's no predominant like white culture or black culture. It's more of a mix of everything. I see from a lot of different point of views. I have a lot of like friends from different countries in Asia, like Thailand, the Philippines, Korea, Japan, and Hawaii is like 40% Asians, so it's mostly Asians and not too many white or black culture. And then I have like a lot of like Polynesian, Micronesian friends who they are really open-armed to inviting me in to like having dinner with their families and etc. So I see a lot of, that's why like when I came to the States, I was not I knew there was a predominant like white culture, but I wasn't really used to it. But then now that I like grew up, I'm planning on moving here. I'd have to like get used to it and stuff.
So it's very different. So let me ask you this question, and this is like, it's going to sound like a loaded question, but I don't know how to. I want you to I want to try to air this out, right, as best we can. Don't get politically correct on me here, okay? How are you all? How is your life when you think about, like here, just assume that for a hot minute, there are a lot of people in here who have there are a lot of international students here in the room, right? There are a lot of people in here who have a lot of experiences, but let's just speak to people who have not had the kinds of experiences that you've had, and maybe won't have them, right? Like, how are you a more interesting person, and how is your career? How is this going to impact your future, your career, your this multicultural kind of this sense, opening your arms up, right? We can just start with Pete again. Like how's this good? Like, what's this do for you? And what do you imagine it doing for you down the road?
I think it makes me a lot more open to new things, such as traveling. Like, I want to do study abroad, and I probably want to live out of the country for a little bit, maybe work in Australia. I always liked the idea of like going to Australia, but the one thing about sort of like growing up in Europe is like you've sort of already done it, so you don't want to go there anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've already sort of been there.
So I want to go back to something.
Or like how am I?
No, hang. I want to go back some. You said make you open to new things. What else besides travel? Like, what else do you imagine yourself being open to?
Just like meeting new people, I think, as well. Or sort of like I know it's different being like a foreign exchange student here than what I was growing up, but like I sort of understand what they're going through because I was an immigrant in the UK, so I think it really helps me connect to foreign exchange students or immigrants because I was sort of picked on a little for being American.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Were you were there during Obama, during Bush?
I was there during Trump as well because I left
Yeah.
2018.
Oh yeah.
So they love to talk about Trump, man. I don't know what it is like. They talked about U.S. politics more than like British, man.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Well, everybody loves to talk about Trump
Yeah.
now. I don't understand it, but okay. So you say you feel like you're more open-minded, and how does that help you? Can anybody else jump on that? Like, Sarah, do you feel like that? Do you feel like in terms of that being?
Yeah, I think I probably do feel a little bit more open-minded than some people. I think it's a perspective that I've gained through my life experience, and I think it helps me to at least be welcoming to other people. Like, if I meet international students, like, I feel like I can relate to them, not necessarily relate directly, but like help, show that I understand their experience a little bit, or if I like meet black students, like obviously at face value they don't know that I'm familiar with some of their experience, but I can just relate to them in some sense, I guess.
And so in what ways do you imagine just, your mind has just opened up. In what ways do you imagine that benefiting you down the road?
I think in terms of like professionally, I guess all the people that I'm going to come across and meet, it's kind of, I guess, helped me to be cultured a little bit and like able to converse about a lot more types of things, which just like personal relations are a part of, being in a job and getting to know people. And if someone has been to the same place I have, you get to talk about that, and then that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, for sure. Look, I mean, and I can go ahead before I say that. That's cool. Thanks, Austin. How about you? Like, what do you? I saw you shaking your head earlier. Like, how?
I mean, I agree. Like, the same thing as being open-minded and being in the same position as when you first, like, if you're an international student and you first, arrive to the States. I've had the same experience, like, from Hawaii and traveling to the States. Like, I was like surprised by like the amount of fast food restaurants here that aren't in Hawaii, and it's like a different culture. And but then it's like I can, as I'm amazed by being in the States, people are starting to become more interested of my culture as well. As like being a Korean, as like I feel like the Korean culture is like being on the rise, and as an exchange, like if people like start to ask me like, oh, who is this guy, or what does this mean, and why do the people in Korea do this, I can tell them like, oh, I can explain it to them. And I feel like it's a pretty fun and fair exchange.
And what do you how do you see your life benefiting from the experiences that you had? And I wonder if you've thought, like, how do you see it, like, you know what I mean? Because here, for example, right? Let me just say this. When we're putting resumes together and Vitas together and so on, right? Like, you want to go out and you want to get a job, right? And we have this idea that we're going to go to college, and what's most important is, what's on the lines and what we've done, but there's something in between. But when you start talking to people, and I talk to lots of recruiters and lots of people who we hire lots of people. We have like 160 people working at World in Conversation, right? Like we are, there's the in-between the lines. And the in-between the lines is one of these things. It's like, how interesting is this person, right? Like, how interesting are they? Like, when you put them in a room with people, with a really diverse group of people, any room, anywhere, right? and I get this from all of my, 37 years of former students, right? How much are people going to want to be in that room with them? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening for them? And so I want to add, I'm just trying to go there. We could just go one more round. Like, dude, is anything right there? You know what I mean? Because, dude, listen, for you, for example, I'm not going to, can I say this? I'm not going to lie. That's the thing that everybody says. No, I'm not going to lie. But the vast majority of white people who have not spent time around black and brown people are really nervous about being around black and brown people. And this is this place we've gotten to in this world, and I don't really understand why we're here and how we got here after so many years. But especially now, it's just really hard to imagine saying the wrong thing. Unless you're a sociopath like me, who would stand up in front of all these people and talk about stuff where at any moment I could get canceled, right? And many times people have tried to cancel me just because of one little thing I say, but people are afraid of that. But you've had a lot of experiences, and the two of you have had experiences, and so you're settled in a space, in this kind of multicultural space that you can't put into words really. You can't really write it on a resume. It's between the lines, and it's something that people would see or feel. Somebody like me would see or feel. So I just wondered, do you have anything you would add to that? It's wide open if you just have a thought that comes to mind.
Yeah, I kind of agree. What you said about white people oftentimes feeling uncomfortable, I guess, in predominantly black spaces. I had to get used to that, obviously, and actually, I never really realized that was a thing too much because, that was my school. I had kids ask me, oh, do you wish you were black? And I was 7. I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. I guess I'm fine the way I am, not understanding any, connotation or anything to that. And, now I would say I probably am more comfortable than the average person just in a space where I'm the only different one.
Dude, I think I'm going to speak for you. I'm sure you're more comfortable than the average person who has not had your experiences.
Yeah, and I think part of how it's helpful even is as I've come here and met a lot more white people, just kind of being the middleman almost for explaining there's the perceived tension that you feel might actually not be there.
Yeah.
And I know that because I've been there kind of.
Yep. That perceived tension is coming from you.
Yeah,
it's not coming from black and brown communities.
And also that not me being able to do that means that someone who's black doesn't have to do that and deal with the whole thing of oh, I don't hate you, that they don't have to go through that process with someone because I can, I guess.
Yeah, because I got you, right? So it's you have, and this is cultural capital, by the way. There's a term that's out, that we use. It got really popular in the world of sociology a while back. Cultural capital, meaning that you take on, there's certain parts of one's culture that you take on that you can put in your back pocket and you can pull out at any time. And so cultural capital is also experiences that you have that allow you to be a particular way in certain situations as opposed to others. Do either of you have anyone want to add anything to this about to what I had said earlier? You're good? All right, man. Well, I'm I'm done. You guys killed it. Any final things, bro? When did you first drink in the UK? Use the microphone.
My mama might watch it, so I'm not telling. No, but I was 16, I think.
16?
Yeah.
Dude, you're only 16. That's old.
I know. I was lame.
Yeah. Did you sneak down to Amsterdam and smoke hash or anything?
No. I was lame. I was 16 years old. How did I
Dude,
sneak down
listen,
to Amsterdam?
Dude, all right.
Couldn't drive.
All right. Well, also your dad was in the military, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
do you want to hear a funny story about accents?
Yeah.
So back in middle school, my parents signed me up for like extra reading classes and stuff, or that they wanted to get me extra reading classes because I wasn't good at it. So they had me in this one like one-on-one with this special teacher, and they would make me sound out letters because I was American and they were British. I had like a sort of British accent, so it'd be like A and E's and I's and I would be like ah, I'd be like ah, and they'd be like no, it's ah. So I was there for like 4 weeks sounding out letters with this guy, and eventually we went on to words, and he didn't think I could read. It turns out I was in a class for kids who couldn't read at all for like I was like he was just shocked when I told him I'd read like Harry Potter before. Yeah. Because the dude had been sounding letters with me.
So you literally, and even then you didn't pick up the dialect,
even
right?
Like I had
the Queen's
I had
English.
I had enough of. I went to American schools my last 2 years in England.
Yeah.
And I've been in the U.S. for like 5 years now. I've been around Americans. So I used to have like a little hint of one.
Yeah.
So that like Americans think I'm British, but the British think I'm American.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah. I got that. Dude, awesome, man. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thanks, bro. Thanks, Austin. Yeah. Yeah. That's very cool. Hey, I want to walk you through a few things here. I just want to talk a little bit about a couple things. You know, in part stemming from my own experience in this. You know, I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, right? And in my experience, I had lots of experiences. Predominantly white neighborhood, predominantly white school, but my mother, I had a lot of international experiences because my mother, who had a high school education, but my mother liked food, and my mother had this idea that if she liked to go to restaurants of people from different countries, different cultures, right? And she had the idea that if they spoke their own language, the food would be authentic. And then it's going to be better, right? So she would only go to these restaurants where they didn't speak any English. And so I, as a kid, from a young age, I got comfortable being in these environments, different environments. You know, it wasn't like all the time, but it was, these different environments with people where, you had to try to figure things out. And it wasn't awkward for us. So my mother, she didn't travel. She didn't speak any other languages. It just wasn't part of our world, But I learned at a young age to not be afraid, right? That there was something good about foreignness. And the good was good food. So, my mother would send me over there was this woman who was Polish, and, my mother sent me to her house to, mow her grass and then have her teach me how to make stuffed grape leaves, this kind of stuff, right? So, I would learn these things. And so the otherness became something that was really fascinating for me. And then, but nothing really happened with it until I was 19, and I traveled to Canada. I went up to Montreal. Maybe I was 18. I don't remember. No, I was 19. And I was in the French-speaking part of Montreal in this neighborhood. And I'm walking down the street, and everything is in French, and everybody's speaking French. And for the first time in my life, I had the experience of complete foreignness. And utterly fascinating, right? So I got hooked in some way to try to understand what was going on. And as I then moved to, I think I was 21 is when I studied abroad in Spain, and I studied at the University of Madrid. I didn't understand a damn thing. Professors were all Spanish professors. I had studied Spanish for 9 months. Didn't understand anything, didn't know anything. Everything was going right over my head. Didn't matter because I was there. And that was the first time that I really lived in the experience. And then after that, everything just opened up for me, right? And so now, there are many reasons I teach this class, but one is because I want to meet as many people from as many parts of the world as I possibly can. And then I want to have experiences, right? So I had years ago, I had a student who was Ethiopian. And I said, hey man, I want to cook an Ethiopian meal. So can your mom hook me up with, could she teach me how to make injera? Injera is that Ethiopian bread, the unleavened bread. And I'm like, so, I learned how to make injera, and I learned how to make Ethiopian food. And then I go back and forth like this. So this is like my, I don't think it's necessarily, it's not essential that we be multicultural. Like, it's not essential that we understand other parts of the world. In fact, it's impossible to understand the world. The world is so complex, it's so big, there's so many people with different customs and languages and so on, that there's no way that we can ever understand the world. But things are so radically changing that it is far better for the stability of life on this planet if more and more people come to some kind of a curiosity about what's happening in other places and other cultures, right? Let me just show you a couple things here. Go back. Oh yeah, here, I just said this about just language, right? Let me just show you, like Mexico, we have the idea that, in Mexico they speak Spanish, right? There's 290 languages in Mexico alone. And, when you travel through Mexico, and when you go into rural Mexico, as I have, you start to realize some of these indigenous languages, right? And so, here in the United States, we speak over 300 languages in the U.S. But, they're not our indigenous languages, but we speak that many. Okay, next. So, just a couple quick things. It's only been 2,500 years that people first started to travel for the sake of learning about the world. It was really the Romans and then East Asians. And this is about as much as you're ever going to get from me in the world of history. But think about that. 2,500 years ago is when people first had this idea that, hey, some of us could travel to actually learn about the world, but the vast majority of people never went anywhere. It's only in the past, about 180 years ago, that we started building these massive ships. The Europeans and the Americans started building these massive ships to move people in large numbers around the world, like large steamships. And then the world only had 1.2 billion people in it. And so most people lived and died in the places where they were. But that's not the case anymore. We don't live and die in the places that we are. Most of us actually, certainly in the more developed countries, most of us are going to have experiences with people with other cultures and other backgrounds. Hey, by the way, I found this number, which is kind of cool, 50 billion. It's really cool, right? People did an estimate of how many human beings have ever been born on planet Earth. People we would call Homo sapiens. And the number that they came up with is 50 billion. That's how many humans have ever been born on this planet. It's kind of cool, right? About that 50 billion people were born. And so there's, 8 billion of us who are still around. So anyway, so go to the next slide. Let me show you a couple things, right? This is air passenger traffic, right? This is billions of passengers. Look where we are in 1950. Look where we are today. People are moving, man. They're moving all over the world. And so when I'm asking them about this kind of multicultural mindset and what's it mean and how's it mean, it's like, dudes, I've been, and many of you will be, in so many situations where if you don't have some kind of basic multicultural mindset, meaning the ability to take yourself out of your shoes and step into the shoes of the other person with whom you're conversing, with whom you're talking. It's like you won't be able to get on well. You just won't. It's like there's too much happening. The vast majority, the majority of you anyway, are going to have jobs where the ability to do that just matters. Like, so from some things, like, look, when I lived in Ecuador, I would sit in people's homes, which were about the size of this screen here, right? And would have like a little bed of straw in the corner and a couple stools, and that's it. That's it, like mud walls and basically a mud floor and maybe straw or corrugated aluminum. These are campesinos in like rural Ecuador, and their vocabulary was like 1,200 words. And sometimes I would sit. I remember one time, I could tell you this story. The first time I was in Mexico, I went to this little town. It was above the clouds. And I got off this bus. And I didn't know where I was. I mean, I had an idea where I was. But I got off the bus. The next bus wasn't coming for 24 hours. And I was there to get mushrooms. I had one goal, and my one goal was to get mushrooms. And I had to go to Tia Maria's house. And I'm like, Tia Maria's restaurant, right? That's what I was told. So Tia Maria. So I'm asking around for Tia Maria. I get to this place, and there's a woman sitting in the middle of her floor tending a fire like this. And she's just, doing whatever she's doing. I walk in, there's a stool over here, there's a stool over here. She looks up, she's like, "Hola, gringo. ¿Qué pasa?" And I'm like, nada. Are you Tia Maria? Yeah. So I sit down. She tells me to sit down, and I sit down. And I sat on this stool for an hour before she said anything to me. Now, the thing about that is, I understood Tia Maria. And I knew that I had to sit on that stool for an hour. I was this American coming out of this world that she will never inhabit ever. But I knew, because when I lived in Ecuador, I would sit in people's houses and not talk. Because they just didn't talk. You don't talk. You say a few words. You want some coffee, you want this, you want that. Sometimes you talk. You just sit. And you sit with each other's presence. It's a thing. These are really poor, but not poor in goods, but not poor in spirit, campesinos, right? Poor farmers. You just sit with them. And as a gringo, as this American, I learned to do that. It went against every fiber of my being, but I just learned how to do that, okay? I never thought that would come in handy until I had a chance to get hongos from Tia Maria. So I sit down, and I'm sitting on the stool, right? So here, it's closer to the floor. It's only this high, but I'm going to pretend that I'm this high, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm watching her tend the fire. An hour goes by, and she says, "Tienes hambre? Are you hungry?" And I'm like, "Yeah." So she says something to her granddaughter. Before I know it, her granddaughter is chasing this chicken around, through and around, all over. And she finally gets the chicken, and I hear a squawk, and she brings the dead chicken in, and Tia Maria plucks the chicken. And I'm like, oh, shit. I'm going to be here a long time, because this is chicken soup from the very, very beginning. You know what I mean? I just watched the chicken die, and here we go. But I know, because of my multicultural experience, I know to just sit tight. And I look around, and all I see around me are mushrooms. And I'm like, I can't ask her for mushrooms. Right? You know what mushrooms are, dude. Where's my mushroom guy? Dude. He's not here today? Oh, man, he's going to have to watch this story. So I just sit, and I wait for her to make the mushrooms. And you don't push. if you don't say anything, you don't push. I talk when she talks to me. I ask her a couple questions, but I know that she's not going to talk a lot, and I'm really comfortable, and I'm just sitting and I'm watching. Eventually, she hands me a bowl of chicken soup. I'm like, awesome, man. And I ate the chicken soup, and like, amazing. She wouldn't let me pay because she knew I was a friend of Don Marco, who was, had a guy that I knew. And then then I'm leaving, and she says, ¿Quieres hongos? Like, do you want hongos? Do you want mushrooms? I'm like, inside, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, that's why I'm here. But outwardly, I'm like, let a minute go by. Like, okay, yeah, I'll take some mushrooms, right? That's all learned behavior, right? Now, mind you, that's not like me operating with someone who's a billionaire in another country, which is infinitely more awkward for me. But it is me operating in a situation where I learned something that was really uncomfortable, really difficult, really complex, and I brought it around and used it in another situation. And then later that evening, I saw God, thanks to her. So, which was pretty cool. So, for me, I think it's a matter of day after day realizing that the world, my world, is increasingly, incredibly complex. And the only way to operate in that world, if I truly want to operate, is to just open my eyes, just see what's going on, and imagine myself sitting in the shoes of somebody else, not thinking it's weird, but thinking like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? And how did they get there? And what can I learn from this? What can I take from this? Like, what can I bring home with me? And what can I bring into other situations, right? So here, let me go to the next slide. So this is what this looks like, right? Like, look at this, man. This is the world, y'all. Like, we are just a species that is just moving everywhere. This isn't even the World Wide Web, right? And so this is just so absolutely fascinating at this stage in human history. So when I talk about multiculturalism, when I talk about other cultures, when I talk about it's not just like just go somewhere. It's about being in a different space. It's about being so damn curious that most human beings everywhere in the world are largely the same as everybody else. But being really curious about what they are and then learning from that. Like, can you, and by the way, the United States, can you go one more? Actually, go back, go further, one more. Yeah, go right there. We're going to go here. Hey, Jeff, we're going to go here, and then we're going to go back to that other one. So here, this is the U.S., right? 1965. This is white people here. Percentage of white people in the U.S., people of European ancestry. And then black people, Hispanic people, Asian, and then all other. Very tiny, right? And then look at how this grows. Look at how it grows. Until we're going to get to the place where ultimately white people are going to be about 46, going to be less than 50% of the population here. And increasingly, all of these people are coming from all over the world and bringing cultures. Right? And it's always has been the case. Because we call these white people, but let me show you who these white people are. Go backwards, yeah. So this is the U.S. Here's, Ireland and Germany and the UK and Italy and Russia and Hungary. This is like starting in the early 19th century and going up. These people, see, today we think about all these people, these white people that came to the U.S., they were just white people. They were all Europeans. No, they were all different groups. They were all different cultures, all different ancestries, and they had been fighting with each other in Europe for centuries. So they didn't like each other. They came to this place called the U.S., and they had to figure out how to get along. This is a nation, so now I'm not forgetting slavery and genocide and so on. When I'm this is a nation of immigration. And we still are a nation of immigration. We always have been, we always will be. And all of these people battle with each other to try to figure out how they're going to get on in life. How are they going to get along with each other? Are they going to learn English as the language? Like, who's learning English and who's fighting with who and how are they learning it? And the same things we're dealing with today. So if you go forward one and say, well, look, wow, we got all these new people coming in. Yeah, they are coming in, but they've always been coming in. And that's what makes this really fascinating. Go to the next slide. So it's like, here we are, right? 66 million of us speak in language other than English. And maybe not in your own world or whatever, but definitely in this world in which we are. And so sometimes it's really about breaking through the awkwardness. All right? So speaking of breaking through the awkwardness, so I had this experience back, I don't know when it was, maybe like 10 years ago. I was in Turkey, and this was the day before I think I might have mentioned that I accidentally converted to Islam once. So it was in Turkey. But the day before that happened, I was in the Blue Mosque. And the Blue Mosque is just this amazing mosque in Turkey and in Istanbul. And I was meditating in the mosque. I went in, I took my shoes off. I found it's a massive room. It's easily 4 times, if not 5 or 6 times the size of this room here. And I took my shoes off and I was meditating in this really sweet spot in the mosque. And I was meditating in a Buddhist posture because I had spent time in a couple Buddhist monasteries, and I just used to meditate in that way. It just helped me in my mind. And so as I'm sitting on the carpet, right, like this, and just meditating like this, and just going into this really nice space, I hear somebody go, psst, like, psst, and I look up, and I hadn't heard the call to prayer. And so people were lining up in the call to prayer, and somebody motions for me to come over. And my first response was, oh, shit. Like, they're lining up. Like, I can't pray. Like, I don't even know if I'm allowed to be in there, really. But then I went, to hell, let's go, right? So I line up next to all these guys are lining up, and so I get down like them. I'm standing with them. I realize, all right, here we go, man. I don't know how to do this, but right now I'm going to be Muslim and I'm going to pray with all these folks, right? And I'm going to just figure it out. And so what I want to do, right, I want to break through the awkwardness. We have a couple minutes before 5. Dude, I want someone to volunteer to be me back then. Preferably, it'd be easier if it's a guy. I want someone to volunteer to be me back then. Who wants to volunteer? Dude, you're down. Come on, man. And I need someone who's Muslim to come up. 2 guys, actually. I need 2 Muslims, 2 men. But you got to both be Sunni or both be Shia. Do we have one? I need one more Muslim guy. Who else wants to do it? Dude, you're going to be here. I need another Muslim guy. Dude, we got so many Saudis in here. Like, can I get... Dude, find somebody.
This guy. He's a Saudi.
Dude, all right, come on up now. Damn, half the room's Saudi. Dude, you ready? All right, man. All right, so listen. Hey, can you play that really fast? So first up, what's your name again, bro?
Abdul.
Abdul?
Yeah.
All right, bro, you ready?
Jacob.
Jacob.
Muhammad.
What is it?
Muhammad.
Muhammad. Okay, so listen. So this is a call to prayer, right? Listen to this.
الله أكبر الله أكبر
blue mosque. So, bro, this is you. You're going to stand right next. So you're going to stand. How close do you stand to him, right?
I mean, with COVID, we have to do like, you know.
Okay, but get it. You've.
It's like
All right.
shoulder to shoulder, ankle to ankle.
All right. So go. So spread out just a little.
Yeah, but usually you make your legs
Okay.
on the.
All right. So here's what's going to happen. So you guys pretend that you're going to start, and dude, you're me. And you got to do exactly what they're doing because you got all these people here, and like, you can't let them know that you're not Muslim, right? Because they have no idea I'm not Muslim, man. So I'm like, whatever they're doing, I'm going to do. Even when they close, I got to close my eyes. I'm going to still watch, and I'm going to do the whole thing. So just get. Can you guys pull that off?
So we first like go like.
Oh wait, hang on 1 second. I'll hold the microphone for you.
So he can demonstrate. Then I'll just say.
Okay,
That's
yeah,
fine?
do that.
So
you're
we
gonna-
first.
you're So you can't be watching him though, bro. So you gotta
Yeah,
you gotta look out of the corner of your eye. Because basically what's going on in your mind right now, you got people in front of you, you got people behind. Your mind is going like, oh shit, right? That's the word that keeps going. But I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna get it, and no one's gonna know. All right. All right. So go ahead.
So we first start by saying Allahu Akbar, then we do this. Then you keep your hand like that.
Dude, you missed it. You're already screwing up. All right.
It's usually different up here or down. It
Yeah,
depends
yeah,
on
I
the
got it,
person. And then we read, usually it's the imam, the person who's
Yeah.
leading the prayer.
Yep. The
reads
imam is there.
Read from the Quran.
Okay.
So it's the first surah, then another,
Yeah.
any verse from the Quran, short, long,
Okay.
whatever. And then we go down on, I don't know how to explain it, but it's called ruku'.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, Yeah, it's like kind of a bow, yeah.
Okay,
so we
bow.
go Allahu Akbar, then we go down like that.
Okay. No. Hang on. No, hang on. Okay. So do it, bro.
He's squatting, but it's not squatting, dude.
Yeah. You gotta go down.
He's like going to the...
Yeah.
So
right.
then we come up. Then we go to...
Wait, don't say it now. Let him just do it. Okay? All right? So now you got to do the thing where you go down. Do your little slow. All right?
That's good. That's good.
Now,
actually.
bro,
Kinda.
hang on. Bro, you can't look at the coach. You got to watch him. He got up already. We already found out you're not Muslim.
Yeah, he's
doing
actually
good.
kind of doing it right.
Okay, so hang on. Go back down. Muhammad. All right, so...
Then we come up. It's...
Okay, not bad.
We
All
sip in between the
right.
two.
Look at your hands. You got to put your hands like his. All right?
Yeah, then we go back again, do it twice, and then we come up and go stand again. And we do this, it depends on the prayer, but we do it 5 times, and 4 times. And some prayers it's 2 times, some prayers it's 3 times.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it depends on
And
the
then
time.
and then it just goes on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do that. Don't say it. Do that again. You're going to go down again, and bro, just
Like I thought.
you look the corner of your eye. Nice. You got it. Good.
The second time we do it, it's usually like this. Then
Oh, you got to
he
look
just
left and
only
right.
did it.
Yeah. Okay. See, you would have noticed. If you had a guy in front of you, you would have been watching and you would have noticed. Yeah. Yeah, they tried to put me in the front row at the Blue Mosque, and I'm like, no, man. Luckily, I got in the next one. Yeah. Yeah, but not if you're trying to mimic what people are doing. All right, and then getting up. And you get up on both feet. Watch how he got up. Watch how he gets up. Muhammad, go down again. Watch Muhammad get up. Yeah, I got it.
Yep.
Nice. Dude, all right. You got it, man. See that? Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. Dude, that was awesome. So that was like me, right? And the fact is that I was comfortable, or I just enough to know, like, hey, let me do this, man. I got this. Like, I know enough. Like, they're cool with me being there. It's all good. And then just be in it, right? It's just like being a Catholic, and bending down and up and this and all that.
Did you ask someone after you finished?
No, I didn't.
Uh-huh.
No, I didn't. No, I just converted to Islam accidentally. So, yeah. Yeah, it was cool. Hey, thanks, you all. Yeah, thanks. All right. Hey, hey, thanks. Dr. Mulvey, Ogana, you are here. Hey, we're going to go in a slightly different direction. I want to introduce you to two people who are really awesome. Ogana, you met already from the mukbang exercise, and this is Lori, who is my wife, and who is a friend of Mr. Ogana's.
Yes, definitely.
And who is director of World in Conversation. And
Okay.
I'll just go there.
We didn't know we were following the call to prayer, so this is kind of big, Ogana.
Yeah, very big, very big. Hello, guys. Hello, buddies from my mukbang. Today, I'm here to welcome you guys or to invite you guys to something I think is very big. The best way to put it, what if I told you guys that you could end war with a tool I'm going to give you, or a tool we could give you, or that we could end polarization?
Can you say that again?
What if I told you guys that we could end war and that we could end polarization? What if I told you guys the tools we need to end those two things are here at Penn State, and every single one of you guys could be part of that?
Yeah, put it closer to you.
Oh, my fault.
Yeah, perfect.
We really want to invite you guys for that, and that's why I'm here today with Lori, to invite you guys to be dialogue facilitators at World in Conversation. I'm a trainer at World in Conversation, so I might have facilitated a couple of you guys. But yeah, we want to give you more of like an insight into what you could be part of.
Wait, so has Ogana, who has been facilitated by Ogana? Any? Okay, a few. All right.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good. That's good.
So the reason, can I say something?
Go ahead.
The reason Ogana we're here today is because earlier in a meeting, Ogana just happened to say something about how important it is to let people know about facilitation. And as he was talking, we said, Ogana, why don't you go to Soshwa 19 and talk about it? And he didn't think we could, but here we are, because Ogana really has a passion that we feel and he feels is important to share. And we also, we were just saying, we don't know how to tell you all that we think your life path is knocking on your door right now. Some of you, for sure, this is your life path knocking and saying, hey, we have something for you. We actually have something for the world through you. We have a mission for you. But we don't think you're going to see it.
We don't think you know what's at stake right now. I think that's the best way to put it.
Keep it up here.
A lot is at stake right now. America, I'm Nigerian, Nigeria, around the world. Polarity, differences, teams is a theme around everywhere we go. I guess that's the best way to put it. And I think we're the people that changes that or saves that, I guess. Go ahead.
So people think that dialogue is, and you all are in a discussion group. That's not what we're talking about. We at World in Conversation are training facilitators on a communication tool that is to support the idea of public diplomacy. You all know what diplomacy is, right? Special people that are sitting at tables solving international problems. We're talking about public diplomacy, which is grassroots diplomacy, people-to-people diplomacy, because we have to face it. People are the only ones that are going to solve our problems. We are the only ones that are going to solve our problems across borders, right? And so we dialogue, as we understand it, is a tool for solving problems, and the people who know how to use that tool can help us solve problems and build this world, because, as we say, you don't build the world with your friends, you build it with your enemies. So we better figure out, and we think we know, we have a tool for this, how to do that. We're not worried about polarization because we know we have a tool for it. And so that's why we're here, to invite as many of you as possible to come into this process with us, which is an amazing process, really, really multicultural, multinational, multi-language, multi-religious environment. Your mom's here.
Yeah. Just to let you guys know, I'm not lying. I'm not joking. I think this is big. My mom came into town today just randomly, not for this. I'm not going to pretend. That's not why she's here. She's here. But I had to bring her to prove I wouldn't lie. Like, I can't lie in front of my mom. That's the best way to put it. But yeah, I do think this is big. I do think it's big. I don't know.
There
if
she
you guys
is,
wanna
right
wave
there.
to her.
She
Okay,
flew
you
in
guys,
from
thank you for
Lagos.
that. Thank you for that. Yeah,
for
she
this.
came from Lagos for this, actually. So that's a big thing.
Hey, so
Should we-
I have a question.
Yeah.
Ogana, what have you, by the way, Ogana's very cool, by the way. Definitely one of my all-time favorite students.
Humans.
What have you learned about yourself by doing this work?
I feel so. The reason I'm here today is because of that. I guess that's the best way to put it. I've been in this org for 2 years, or I won't say organization. I don't know how to put it, and I've asked myself questions about myself I don't think I could have asked. Without this, I've been able to. I hate to speak like an expert. I'm no expert. I don't think I'm done with the journey of knowing myself, but I do believe that anybody that comes into this comes out better. I tell you that, and I'm sure of that. Like, if you want to hold me to it, if you want to go through a semester and come back, look for me, you can do that. But one thing I do know is I came out better. I do know myself. I can go through bad, I can go through good, because I know it all has to do with context. I'm in a position. So if something's happening to me, there's a position somewhere else that maybe it has to happen, and I have to understand that, and I have to work with that. I can feel this, I can feel that, but understanding positions is one of the most important things I think has happened in my life. And,
You know, yeah, that's
I
what you said the other day, actually.
I like what you said, that you come in one way and you come out better, which is powerful. By the way, you can't be a facilitator truly if you don't go through a process yourself of expanding your mind, not just expanding skills, but you have to expand your mind. You'll see the world differently.
So
go ahead.
I want to say something. So this is a photo of a team from last year, and when I see that team, I see one of the most, in the largest sense of the word, one of the most multicultural organizations or teams or group of people that I could ever imagine, from different countries and different backgrounds and different social classes and sexual orientations and genders and one thing after another. It is by far and away one of the most classically multicultural or diverse organizations.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, please do.
So yesterday I was talking to an alumni. We're doing a project right now. World in Conversation has been on this campus for 20 years. So we're talking to our alumni. And one of our alums, who also happened to be Nigerian, her family were immigrants from Nigeria, she said, and this is about the multicultural space, which doesn't sound very sexy, but let me tell you why it is. She said, "This experience changed my life. It was the first place that I could be myself, be my full self, all of my culture, all of who I am, while I was with other people who were being themselves. I didn't have to assimilate to something. I had to be myself. And most of us have no idea what that's like. If you're used to being with people like you, you're used to conforming. And if you're used to being with people who aren't like you, you're used to trying to figure out who you are and how you can belong, right? So this is a very different space where you're required to be you. And that is actually part of the work of bringing people together to solve problems. It's not about compromising. It's not about finding a middle ground. It's actually about holding your position, me holding my position, you holding your position, and us coming up with what are we going to do with these two different ways. We don't pick one. We come up with a third. We always say 1 + 1 = 3. This is profound, paradoxical work, and it is the future of the world rests on our shoulders. What would you say to that?
I'll say we need you guys. We really do. When I say that, I don't mean it as, I mean it like in the world sense. Like the world needs some, like in this room, I can't imagine how many of you guys we need to be part of this experience or to go back into the world with this skill. We need it. It's not, there's too much at stake not to have it. That's the best way to put it.
And so Ogana and I and Joy are going to be here to talk to anybody who has any even small interest in what we're talking about or even wants to challenge what we're saying, so that we can tell you some things that are for you personally in all of this. So
Awesome. Theo, thanks, y'all.
thanks for
man.
listening. Be well, everyone.